While I wouldn't call this necessarily a horror movie, The Little Things does involve some macabre elements that place it in the same neighborhood as the horror genre. It's more of a mystery thriller, which has its own set of rules and guidelines that are similar but different than your typical horror film. I'll be discussing those differences ahead and eventually get to whether or not The Little Things is worth viewing. Welcome back to ML Miller Frights, a part of the Kings of Horror Network. I'm ML Miller. While you might be watching this video on the Kings of Horror Network, I urge you to click over to my ML Miller Frights YouTube page and give it a like. Please share with all of your buddies. Click subscribe to this channel, and don't forget to ring that bell for notifications. The Little Things is new in select theaters and streaming on HBO MAX. It's directed and written by John Lee Hancock. Denzel Washington, or Denzel as I like to call him, plays small-town deputy sheriff Joe Deacon, who was once a detective for the LAPD but seemed to burn himself out on a specific unsolved case. When he's asked to drop off some information at the LAPD, Deacon overhears a press meeting held by Detective Jim Baxter, played by Rami Malek, about a murder investigation with details similar to the unsolved case that put Joe over the edge. This compels Joe to stick around in LA for a bit and look into the case. Baxter seems somewhat inquisitive and standoffish to Deacon at first, but soon finds himself allying with the man who formerly occupied his current job in hopes to find more insight on the case. The pair eventually track down potential suspect Albert Sparma, played by Jared Leto, who definitely fits the bill, but is an uber fan of detectives and seems more amused by being accused of the crimes than anything else. Sparma's taunts begin to get under the skin of Deacon and Baxter, forcing them to bend the law themselves and take drastic measures to close this case once and for all. But will the lengths these two detectives go be enough to settle the case which has eaten away at their souls, or is it just the beginning of a life's worth of torment? While one can review any movie by the same criteria, it helps if you understand the difference between the horror and mystery genres. While they often crisscross, the differences are what really fascinate me. Instead of following the killer or the victim, these films follow a person investigating the crime. It's not so much about the scares, though there are plenty to be had. It's more so about the hard work the detective does in order to solve the case, and in this case, the toll that hard work takes on the detective. There are plenty of other aspects that differentiate horror and mystery, but I find the film following the detective's POV to be the biggest difference. Maybe I'll do a full video distinguishing the two genres someday, but not today. Today I'm looking at The Little Things. One should think a film like The Little Things should be structured so that the clues are right there from the beginning. The title is repeated over and over again by Denzel's Deacon, and even used by Leto's Sparma once. But instead of the little things referring to the clues a killer leaves behind, the film chooses to focus instead on those little pangs of guilt that chip away at a detective's conscience. It's something that Morgan Freeman's Somerset refers to often in Seven, when he at first tries to distance himself from the case as he knows it's one that's not going to be solved and one that will eat away at him if he gets too invested in it. This isn't the only similarity to Seven that The Little Things possesses, but it is the meatiest theme that both films latch onto, casting the detective often as mentally unstable as the killer whose crimes they are investigating. The bulk of The Little Things has Deacon recognizing familiar temperaments and characteristics Baxter has as very much like his own, and Deacon attempts to guide Baxter away from the shattered life Deacon is now living. From the beginning to end, this is the main throughway, and in understanding that, you understand the main message The Little Things is trying to get across. Many will dismiss The Little Things as Seven light, and I understand why. There's an awful lot of similarities, from the pairing of a wizened street dick with a brash and somewhat green rookie eager to prove himself, to the climax which takes the suspect and the detective to a secluded locale in order to test the mettle of all involved. There are cops rushing into a dark apartment with flashlights, soliloquies from the suspect that they are remarkably similar to the detective, and a heinous set of crimes that seem both meticulously set up and passionately in the moment. In many ways, The Little Things fits right there in that era of cinema that fell right after Seven, which aped the format and style like Instinct, 8mm, The Bone Collector, also starring Denzel, Solace, Copycat, Kiss the Girls, Fallen, also starring Denzel, Taking Lives, and one of my favorite cheesy knockoffs, Resurrection, to name a few. The Little Things follows this format, but does it well enough and veers away from it enough to work. Denzel basically is wearing a skin suit of Morgan Freeman here as the wizened cop who has seen it all, done it all, and got the t-shirt to prove it. It's a role we've seen from Denzel before, and he does it well enough, but just don't expect anything other than a Denzel performance, and I don't think you'll be disappointed. Rami Malek is the main problem for me, as I just can't envision him as the tough-talking badass detective. His thin arms, forced baritone voice, and outstretched chin doesn't scream cop not to be fucked with, though that's the character we're supposed to perceive him as here. I'm sorry, but the guy looks like a plucked chicken, and he's totally miscast for this role. Jared Leto continues to be shooting for the moon and beyond, and wants so badly to get an award for playing the role of a psycho you can feel it in every scene he's in. The thing is, he's pretty compelling in The Little Things. I honestly thought it wasn't him in the previews, as he seems to have donned fake teeth and black contact lenses for the role. If you've seen Mindhunter and know the Ed Kemper story, things might feel very familiar. But I actually thought Leto did a decent job as Sparma, who taunts the police with his every move after he is pinned as a suspect. While there are flashes of gore and violence, that's not really what this film is all about. You only get 2 scenes that might evoke some kind of tension as the serial killer stalks a woman at the beginning, and then another quick scene with a nighttime runner meeting her fate. Other than that, the tension comes from watching Denzel and Rami's characters fall apart as their obsession with the case intensifies. Again, this isn't a horror film, but a detective mystery, so if you're looking for this to cross the barrier between genres often, this isn't the movie that's going to do it. I was compelled by this film, though, especially the climax, that does have similarities to Seven, yet distinguishes itself quite a bit in the way it wraps everything up. The finale is over-explained, and I think it's one of the biggest flaws of the film. I would have rather been left with some questions unanswered and left ambiguous than the buttoned-down way this film comes to an end. I don't feel the film would have suffered in the end had they left out the final thing from the last reel. If you've seen it, you know what I mean. The Little Things clocks in at just over 2 hours, a requirement for films that want to be taken seriously these days. I think actually everyone may have taken this whole thing a bit too seriously, and had all involved loosened up their sphincters a bit, I think it would have been a much more watchable film. As is, The Little Things feels the need to beat the horse until it's a pancake flat with the way it repeats its title, its themes, and its performances, until even those in the nosebleeds can understand. I like the film quite a bit, but I feel it lays everything on so heavy it almost borders on parody at times. If you haven't seen Seven, and I can't believe there are people out there who haven't, The Little Things is going to be an astounding achievement. I feel like I can honestly talk about it for hours, which in itself makes it a decent movie. The Little Things is a well-made, well-acted, and well-realized film, though it doesn't hold a shaved fingertip to Seven. It still manages to be one of the better offspring of Seven out there. That'll be it for today. Please chime in down below in the comments and let me know how on the nose or mind-numbingly wrong I am, or you can counter with your own review. So guys, you know how YouTube works. I'd love to be able to dedicate more time to this channel. I'm not monetized yet, so if you want to help me out, remember to hit all the pertinent bells and whistles down below. Want some spooky comics to read? I have 2 new horror comic book trade paperbacks you should look out for. Both Gravetrancers and Pirouette, collecting never-before-published issues, can be found in only the finest of comic book shops. If you're looking for written reviews, you can find them on my website, mlmillerwrites.com. If you really want to show your support, I also have a Patreon page at mlmiller. Look for the link to my Patreon page down below. Thank you so much for your time, and take care.
You're doomed to live the life you're meant to be, stuck inside your reality. You're doomed. Oh, you're doomed. You're doomed. You're doomed. Live the life that you are meant to be. Live inside